So they're one of the most fun units in Warhammer 40k. Let's talk about Smash Captains. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy-focused 40k channel, where we're mainly about leading our Imperial forces to purge the Xenos and heretics everywhere. We've been going through the Space Marine Codex one unit and datasheet at a time, and looking what options we have available to us. In this video we'll be talking about Smash Captains and any obvious war gear, relics and options from the supplement books. I have already recorded a video about the various types of captains. In that we talked about all 8 captains, and I said why my favourite options for the Smash Captains are the bike captains and the jump captains. The bikes just have massive movement, plus are a bit tougher and have an extra set of bolters, and the jump captains can both deep strike and also have that great movement too. I'm not saying that you can't use the other ones. You could run a walking captain up in a transport vehicle or on foot as part of your main battle line, or you could potentially deep strike in the Terminator captain, but I prefer the other two just because they have more mobility when you're actually on the board. Having just 6 inches or less movement means that the foe could just run away from you, and all of these fancy buffs could be for nothing if you can't even get them into close combat. We also discussed how from the main codex, my favourite war gear options are usually a Thunderhammer and Storm Shield, as it just gives you the most bang for your buck, offensively and defensively. For a cheaper Smash Captain, I'd certainly consider the Power Fist, or a relic such as the Teeth of Terror or the Burning Blade. These guys I'd typically just keep cheap and cheerful, but if we really are looking at getting a character who can put down a really massive target with real reliability, we need to be thinking about comboing the best war gear with the best relics and Warlord traits to hit the enemy as hard as they possibly can and take out a key threat. We've already largely discussed the options from the main rulebook in the last video, so now we're going to run through the different supplement books for the different ways how they can improve Smash Captains. Then we'll have a talk about their use actually on the table. Let's go then. So first we have the Ultramarines. Their combat doctrine and chapter trait don't really do much for the Smash Captains, but they do have some interesting things with Warlord traits and relics. Paragon of War is great on an Ultramarine Smash Captain. This is the trait which gives you a mortal wound on an unmodified 6 to wound. This is amazing when combined with a Teeth of Terror captain with their ton of attacks, or on whenever you have a captain that can re-roll the wound roll for whatever reason. I typically think about this more if you are using the Teeth of Terror, otherwise the Imperium sword might be better. I might be saying that a lot in this review. It is a very good trait. In terms of relics, pretty much every book is going to have its own good relics to buff Smash Captains. In every single one of these books though, there's the Mastercrafted Weapon option, which is just +1 damage, and the vast majority of the time this is going to be the best one to pick if you just want to put as much damage through with your Smash Captain as possible. With a Thunderhammer you're going from damage 3 to damage 4, which is a 33% buff against big targets, which is huge, or it's an extra 50% if you use it on a Power Fist, so a good way of getting a pseudo Thunderhammer while not paying 40 points for it. There's also the Adamantine Mantle and Armor Indomitus, which are both possibilities for buffing the defense of the captain. In terms of the Ultramarines' unique relics, the Helm of Censure is my possible favourite. I would typically keep in mind this as a relic to buy in if I'm facing either Heretic Astartes or Codex Space Marines, as it adds +1 to hit and wound, which is an absolutely phenomenal damage buff. Particularly when you're using something like a Thunderhammer, it'll mean that you're hitting on 2s again, and wounding knights and things on 3s. It'll feel like you're a Blood Angel. In the stratagems, they have Exemplar of the Chapter, which is a stratagem where you can put a second Warlord trait on your Warlord, meaning that you could get up to ludicrous damage potential if, say, you stack Paragon of War with the Imperium's sword, so you can have 2 fighty close combat traits as well as a relic. The Ultramarines unfortunately don't have any special way of making that 9-inch charge from deep strike easier, so their captains are more likely to start on the table. Let's move on to White Scars now, who in my opinion are probably the strongest out of the standard Codex Space Marine chapters for Smash Captains. They have a lot of benefits that really help them. Their unique Assault Doctrine gives them +1 damage, which is an amazing buff. It's like having Mastercrafted Weapon on everyone. Advance and Charge is great. Fallback and Charge is useful. Advance and Charge is particularly great on a bike Smash Captain, who will be moving 20 inches and still happily charge away. They can also put 2 fighty traits on the same Smash Captain with Khan's Champion, and they have just the Warlord trait to do this with, which is Chigorian Storm. This gives them +D3 attacks on the charge. This is strong on its own, but you could combine it with Imperium's Sword to have an average of +3 attacks on the charge, plus Shock Assault, so if you had a Smash Captain with a Thunderhammer, that's potentially 8 Thunderhammer hits, maybe with damage 4, maybe with damage 5 if you also use a mastercrafted weapon. A lot of their other traits are also useful. Master of Snares is amazing for not letting your opponent fall back, and therefore you won't be able to be shot by the opponent if they still have units in combat at the end of the turn. Hunter's Instincts is another great trait. It adds +1 to hit and wound rolls against any monsters or vehicles. We discussed why this is great in the Ultramarines one. Could be worth buying in against enemies with these sort of targets. And Master Rider, a biker warlord trait, can let them reroll charges and makes them harder to hit. A ton of great warlord trait options there. In terms of good relics, Plume of the Planesrunner is a decent shout. It adds +1 to the advance and charge rolls for units within 6 inches of the model, which includes the model himself. The White Scars have the option of a Khan on bike as an alternative Smash Captain on bike. The Khan Spear isn't too bad, and he's quite cheap, so it's definitely a possible option. They have a lot of decent mobility stratagems, which are also very helpful for getting your charges off and pulling some tricks with consolidation. But I'd say the single most useful one is Fierce Rivalries for 1 command point. You roll a 3d6 and pick the 2 highest to be the result of your charge. This is really great for avoiding a random low roll when you do charge, and it makes your charge out of Deep Strike so much more reliable. We'll just briefly mention successor chapters now. Probably the single strongest Smash Captains around are White Scar's successors, with the Hungry for Battle traits that gives them +1 to advance and charge, same as the Blood Angels have, and the successor trait that I forget the name of at the moment that gives you extra hits on 6s. That's a decent buff to combat, it's a decent buff to your chance of getting into combat, and they have all of the ludicrously good options for warlord traits, relics, and stratagems that the White Scars give you. The White Scars trait is by no means bad though, so it might depend on your specific build. White Scars itself might be better if you're using bike captains. Let's go on to Iron Hands next. Obviously their trait gives them a 6-up Feel No Pain, which is a decent durability buff, but otherwise isn't particularly helpful. Their most interesting warlord trait for close combat is probably Student of History, which means that when the warlord consolidates it can move up to 6 inches in any direction. This means that you could potentially charge an opponent, hit them with your Thunderhammer very hard, and then consolidate 6 inches back out of combat so your opponent can't even strike back. I thought that this was pretty broken when it came out, and was pretty sure that Games Workshop would fix it. They appear not to have fixed it, and it's still very much the way that it works. This means that you can have a round of combat that the opponent has no chance to strike back in whatsoever, so you can happily charge a Smash Captain as Imperial Knight, hit it a lot, and then still be alive to tell the tale the next turn, because you just fall back before the Knight can attack. A very powerful little trick. In terms of relics, the Axa Medusa packs a surprising punch. It's strength +3, AP -3 and damage D3, and if you combine it with the Imperium Sword warlord trait, then getting up to strength 8 is particularly nasty. They do have a 1 command point stratagem to add 1 to hit rolls in close combat, which could be handy for getting your Thunderhammer back to hitting on 2s again, or to counteract some negative to hit modifiers. Again, they have the stratagem to stack an additional warlord trait on the same character, so you could have Imperium Sword and Student of History on the same character, which could be quite nice. They don't have any way to boost charges outside of being a successor chapter with +1 to charge rolls, so not quite as easy to drop in. Bike characters might be quite good, particularly with that 6-up Feel No Pain, making them very durable. Let's look at Raven Guard next, and these guys are another chapter that does Smash Captains pretty well. Shrike is worth a mention. He's pretty much a pre-built Smash Captain himself. Admittedly, he does only have a lower strength, but he does reroll all wound rolls, and he does have damage too. He also has a Chapter Master aura, which isn't bad at all, boosted move, and he's very good at charging and buffs the units around him. So if you're looking for a Raven Guard Smash Captain, he's worth consideration. Other than this, their unique chapter trait doesn't help Smash Captains so much, but their combat doctrine with +1 to hit and wound against characters while in the tactical doctrine certainly does help. This is a massive boon in close combat against characters, and characters are often what you'll be fighting, because often your Smash Captains will be going after the biggest threats around. They have some good warlord traits. Master of Ambush is often seen to put a scary unit right in the face of the enemy, such as Centurions or Aggressors. But while you do this, you can also load up a Smash Captain to set up right there as well. So as well as the scary unit of whatever it is you're bringing in, you can also have this guy charge turn 1 as well, and put the hurt on a completely different unit if needed. Swift and Deadly can achieve a similar thing, with charging after you've advanced. With one of their stratagems to allow you to move before the game starts, you could move and advance with your Smash Captain, then move, advance and charge again, and you should get a first turn charge. In terms of relics, you can take a pair of fancy lightning claws. It could be a cheap alternative, particularly as they reroll wounds, and these ones get damage D3. Not awful, but not really significantly better than a Power Fist, which is quite cheap anyway. To be honest, for their relics, I'd probably just go with the mastercrafted weapon. Nothing else brings the pain, in quite the same way that that one does. We've already mentioned some of their stratagems, but they have a lot of good mobility stratagems here. There's Strike from the Skies, which can allow a jump pack unit to charge after they've advanced, and also add +1 to their charge distance. There's also the Raven's Blade as well, which means provided you only nominate one target of a charge, you can reroll charges against that unit. You can combine the two, and you could potentially combine that as well with being a successor chapter with +1 to charge for a very reliable charge indeed. Again, you can combine 2 Warlord traits, so if you did want to throw your Warlord into the midst of the enemy turn 1, not always the best idea, you could combine Master of Ambush with a Fighty Warlord trait as well. Salamanders next. And Salamanders, or the Master Artisan's trait, is really good at buffing Smash Captains. Particularly if they've got a Thunder Hammer, it means that you can reroll 1/2 that you roll, which will usually be all you need to do anyway, and you can reroll 1 wound roll too, and they're not likely to be getting many failed wound rolls because of how strong the Thunder Hammer is. The maths is quite complicated behind these rerolls, but on a standard Thunder Hammer bearing Smash Captain, you will on average get roundabout 1 extra wound per turn when you're fighting against a toughness 7 or 8 vehicle. That's really quite a powerful buff, something in the region of 30 to 50%, so it's certainly non-negligible. The Salamanders have a 1 command point +1 to wound stratagem that is just generically useful. Against a toughness 8 model, this will boost your Thunder Hammer or Power Fist by 33%, and it's even better on anything lower strength, say a Teeth of Terror Captain. You can also use Strength of the Primarch as well, which adds 1 to the strength of your Salamander's Smash Captain, meaning that if you combine that with Crucible of Battle, you'll be wounding knights on 2s. Just insane. What's more, this has another effect as well. If you roll an unmodified wound roll of 6, then the attack does double damage, so your Thunder Hammer would be hitting on damage 6. This is a ludicrous amount of damage. Say if we combined these two with a mastercrafted weapon on a standard Smash Captain with 5 attacks as he charged, we'd do on average 12 wounds to a toughness 8 target with no invul save, and then of course if we wanted to go mad on the command points, we could fight again. Risen from the Ashes is also an option for 2 command points. When your character dies, you roll a 4+, and at the end of the phase, if you pass the 4+, they'll stand back up with 1 wound remaining. This could be great, as if you suicide in your Smash Captain, they can get back up and then do their job all over again, hopefully. Again, you can combine 2 Warlord traits on your Warlord. This is particularly nice as a lot of the Relics and Warlord traits buff durability. So let's talk about those now. There's a relic called Vulcan's Sigil. This gives you +1 attack, and once per game you can make him give out an aura of +1 attack to everyone around him, so could really buff up the units nearby. There's Drake Smiter, a AP4 relic Thunderhammer that adds 3 to its damage roll on unmodified wound rolls of 6. You could combine this with the stratagem where you get double damage on rolls for 6 as well, to be doing a potential 9 damage every time you wound your opponent on the roll of a 6. The 9 damage was clarified in a recent Salamanders FAQ, by the way. The Salamander's Mantle is a decent durability upgrade. You subtract 1 to wound rolls when you're targeting this character. This can be absolutely amazing when it's on a bike captain. Even las cannons will only wound him on a 4. And there's a way to make your bike captain toughness 7 via a warlord trait, and potentially even more with psychic powers. If you make him toughness 7, then even if your opponent shoots assault cannons with strength 6 at him, they'll still only be wounding on a 6, which is just insane levels of durability. You'll absolutely need anti-tank weapons to even hope at taking him down, and even then you'll have that 3 up for Storm Shield save. In terms of Warlord traits, you can get +2 strength from Anvil of Strength. Personally, I'd prefer to have Imperium's Sword than this. +2 strength isn't much better than +1 strength in most circumstances. I'd rather have the extra attack that Imperium's Sword gets. There's Miraculous Constitution for a 6 up Feel No Pain and regain 1 wound at the start of each movement phase. You could put this on a bike captain, combine it with the +2 toughness trait, which is Forge Master by the way, and the -1 to wound relic, and have a nigh unkillable Warlord on bike who regenerates wounds. So overall the Salamanders are very very good at fighty and tough Smash Captain, but they don't have any special ways to deliver them into close combat. So this makes me think that a jump or bike captain starting on the board is probably the best bet. The Imperial and Crimson Fists now. Their chapter trait and doctrine don't provide any bonus to the Smash Captains, but they do have some useful traits and relics. Siege Master will give you +1 to wound against vehicles and buildings. This is a great buy-in if you're playing a mostly vehicle army, and will massively increase the damage output. Stubborn Heroism is a useful defensive trait. The Warlord halves the damage characteristic of incoming attacks but can't fall back, which is a negative. The most useful one from the Crimson Fists is Refusal to Die, where they basically get that Salamanders stratagem for getting back up for free. On a 4+, they're returned to battle at the end of the phase with D3 wounds remaining. So again, this could let your Smash Captain go mental all over again, even after they've shot him down. In terms of relics, the Crimson Fists have a relic power fist called the Fist of Vengeance. This is a relic power fist that has +1 damage and also removes the negative to hit penalty, so you'll hit on 2s. That's a decently strong relic and better than the mastercrafted weapon if you were thinking about mastercrafting a power fist, for a cheap and cheerful Thunderhammer equivalent where you save 31 points. In the special issue War Gear section, there's also the Fist of Terror. That's also a power fist without the negative to hit penalty, but it's only damage D3 and you get an additional attack. Most of the time, if you're fighting hard targets, the flat damage 3 is going to be more valuable, so I would personally leave this at home if you are Crimson Fists, but it's not a bad pickup if you are Imperial Fists, but I will weigh this up carefully against the mastercrafted weapon. The Imperial and Crimson Fist stratagems largely focus around shooting. I'd say their most useful stratagem for a Smash Captain is a Crimson Fist one, which is Slay the Tyrant. For 1 command point you can add +1 to hit when fighting a character. A decent little damage buff for just 1 command point could well be worth it. Obviously presuming you're not hitting on a 2 already, in which case it's not worth it. On to Black Templars, and their chapter trait and combat doctrine are some of the most useful to Smash Captains. Re-rolling any or all of the charge dice makes the charge from Deep Strike massively more reliable, so Smash Captains with jump packs are extra good for them. Also their unique assault doctrine is generally good whenever you're wounding something on a 4+ or worse, so it can really help out against Imperial Knights and things, but isn't quite so helpful with Thunderhammers attacking infantry. Their Warlord traits are mainly minor buffs to their fighting prowess. I don't think any of them are stronger than Imperium's sword, but they do have one very interesting one, which is Frontline Commander, which adds 1 to the advance and charge rolls of friendly Black Templar units within 6 inches, including himself. So this could be a way of making that charge even more reliable out of Deep Strike, and could help out any characters nearby. They have a few useful stratagems, including an advance and charge one, a couple of minor close combat buffs, but my favourite, as I've always said with Black Templars, is Tenacious Assault, which is the one that can lock enemy infantry units in close combat on the roll of a 2-up so they can't fall back. As with the White Scars one, this will stop people shooting your Smash Captain and could let him live till the next turn. The Black Templars have some good relics. I like the Crusader's Helm for a Smash Captain, which could put a unit in the close combat doctrine, including him, so that'll give him an extra AP -1 if he needed it, and also the Black Templars auto wounds on 6s rule. We'll round off the chapters by having a quick chat about Blood Angels. They have the archetype of the Smash Captain for 8th edition, and this has only got better with the recent Blood of Baal book. They have the +1 to advance and charge, and they also have +1 to wound on the charge, both of which are enormous buffs for a Smash Captain. If and when they get into their unique assault doctrine, they'll also have that nice AP -1 and an additional attack in the first round of combat too. They're just basically hilariously well suited to Smash Captains. They have a 2 command point stratagem to allow a 3d6 inch charge. They have the Angel's Wing, a relic that ignores Overwatch and rerolls charges, both of which are very powerful, and negating Overwatch can be so useful, particularly if you're charging Tau or something else with mad Overwatch. They can now obtain mastercrafted weapons for damage 4 Thunderhammers, and they can also use the Artisan of War Warlord traits to add +1 to their damage characteristic as well. This means you can now have a Smash Captain that has a damage 5 Thunderhammer, or a Smash Captain that has a damage 4 Thunderhammer and that very nice reroll charges and ignores Overwatch. From the new Blood of Baal book, they have the Icon of the Angel, which can give a further +1 to charges, and can also help out nearby units. Once they're in combat, again they have some very useful stratagems. The single best one is Red Rampage in my opinion. This gives them +D3 extra attacks on the charge, and if you compound this by using either Honour the Chapter or Only in Death to fight again, then you could be having all of those extra attacks twice. You can also make a Blood Angels Captain a Death Company for 1 command point before the battle. This will give them a nice 6-up Feel No Pain, as well as +1 attack on the charge for Black Rage. So if you're counting all of these buffs, they'll on average have 8 attacks on the charge, and 9 if they're in their unique doctrine for 1 command point before the game, and 1 command point when they fight, as they can have a potentially damage 4 or damage 5 Thunderhammer with these attacks, with +1 to wound as well. This is just a hilarious amount of damage, and they should quite reliably delete a large target with a decent chance of one-shotting a knight. There are many other ways that you can buff Blood Angels combat via their different characters, and we won't go into all of these right now, but Blood Angels are probably joint top of the Smash Captain hierarchy, perhaps the top. It's really a contest between them and White Scars, at least for me. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to go over Dark Angels and Space Wolves as I'm not as familiar with their rules, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to cover them when their Psychic Awakening books come out. It seems there's more to say on the subject of captains than virtually any other. So there are a ton of good options available to us from all the chapters that we've talked about. Every single chapter can certainly add something unique to a fighty captain, and weighing up the different options is interesting. I'd probably say that only Blood Angels and White Scars are chapters that you would actually think about using purely on the basis of their fighty characters. Most of the rest of them have their strengths in other things, where what fighty characters they can muster are a nice addition. So I think we'll leave it there for this video. Our next captain related video will be on buff captains and the different options available to them through the supplement books. Then I think after that we'll talk about Smash Captain's actual use on the battlefield, and finally round off with some specific Smash Captain builds. I think I've got my work cut out for me. Thanks very much for listening to another Auspex Tactics video. If you'd be interested in similar content, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. And if you're already subscribed and enjoy my videos, please consider contributing to my Patreon if you feel the content is valuable enough to you. I'm looking forward to continuing with our captain's analysis, so I'll see you guys next time.